So how much money do you think you need to be truly happy? And does happiness necessarily increase with income? Those are the two questions that we're going to try to answer today. And so let's just jump right into the article. So here's the title. It says, here's how much money you need to make to be happy living in the US, according to a study. This article recently came out, I think recently in July 2022, but the study was done, I think a few years ago. So it might need to be refreshed and updated, since we all know the cost of living and inflation has changed how much money people need to pay the bills and save for vacations and so on and so forth. So how much money does someone need to earn in order to be happy in the US? It says it varies based on location, but overall, the figure appears to be much higher than the average annual income for Americans. It looks like there was a study that was done in 2018, and they basically looked at how much individuals were making and then also looked at their happiness score and whether that impacted their overall well-being. It says here that while happiness is subjective, the study authors from Purdue University attempted to answer this question by measuring emotional well-being or one's day-to-day emotions like happiness, excitement, sadness, or anger. They also measured life satisfaction or an overall assessment of how one is doing. All right, so now here's the key takeaway. Globally, the study found that the ideal income point for an individual is $95,000 for life satisfaction and between 60 to 75K for emotional well-being. So it's interesting how the numbers are slightly different based on what you're measuring, but globally, that was what they found. Now, in North America, the individual income level for life satisfaction was found to be $105,000. So roughly about 10K more per year. And then it says here, for comparison, the annual mean wage for full-time wage or salary worker in the US is only 58K, according to the most recent data. The median household income was 67K in 2020, a decrease of 2.9% from 2019. So right off the bat, the takeaway that I have here is that most people are not happy or satisfied with their jobs, because if the overall point is 105 in the US and most people are only making about 60K, then there's an issue there. There's a gap. And I think that's a pretty safe assumption to make. I think most people in the US, they go to their 9-to-5 job. They do it because they have a commitment. They have families. They have to put food on the table. They have to pay for their rent. And so people go to jobs because of necessity, not because of want. And so I think that's kind of the main takeaway here. Let's keep on going into the rest of the article. It says here that the minimum salary needed to be happy in each US state also varies. It was also recently calculated by GoBankyRates.com. The site factored in each state's cost of living index. Okay, so that's important. And referenced the 2018 Purdue study using the 105 figure as the benchmark. It also factored in the state's unemployment rate and crime rates. So it looks like they're also looking at different variables to also come up with their index number. The states with the lowest salary needed to be happy were Mississippi at 87K, Kansas at 90K, Oklahoma 92K, and Alabama at 92K. Yeah, I would assume that if you live in those states, your money is going to stretch a lot further, and 87K will probably get you a single family house and be able to support your family. I'm going to assume that this is not the case in some of the other states, especially on the West Coast or New York City. On the opposite end, individuals in Hawaii need to be earning at least 202 to reach a state of bliss, according to the website. Here we go. In New York, the minimum salary needed to be happy was found to be 155K, followed by California at 149. Yeah, so this is pretty surprising. The fact that you need roughly 33% more in Hawaii to be reaching that state of bliss. Although I would say that living in Hawaii, just being on that island and getting that amazing weather and access to those beautiful beaches and just the overall vibe of being in that state, I think has a major factor in your overall happiness. But I think the cost of living there is so high, and because of all the tourists coming in and people relocating there during the pandemic to take advantage of, all the local amenities, I would say it's priced out a lot of local people, which is why this number is probably a lot higher. And then, of course, we go into some of these other states, Michigan, Texas, Illinois, Minnesota, so on and so forth. But yeah, it looks like there's a large spectrum in between the states, with Hawaii being sort of at the top. And then, of course, some of the southern states in the bottom tier, which is not very surprising. I would say, in California, that 149,000, I was making that at some point, and I did feel like that was sufficient to live in a house and have some roommates. But if you're thinking about having a nice one-bedroom apartment in the South Bay or in San Francisco, and you want a nice lifestyle, that's going to be pretty hard, right? You're not going to be able to have a whole lot of savings. You're probably not going to be able to come up with a down payment anytime soon for a single family house. So, it is what it is. Now, when we scroll down, the second question that I had posed in the beginning was, does happiness necessarily increase with income? So the idea here is that the more you make, is there a point where these two are correlated, or does it start to diverge at a certain point? Another often cited Princeton University study published in 2010 did find a correlation between income and a person's emotional well-being and life evaluation, but only to a certain level. The researchers found an increase in happiness alongside annual income up to about $75,000 before it levels off. Interesting. Now, this study was done in 2010, which is about 12 years ago. I'm curious if this is the same outcome and conclusion that they would come to if they ran this study again, because 75K is below the average mean in the previous study. And so I think there's definitely some alignment here that needs to be done. It continues to go on. Low income exacerbates the emotional pain associated with such misfortunes as divorce, ill health, and being alone, the authors wrote. We conclude that high income buys life satisfaction, but not happiness, and that low income is associated both with low life evaluation and low emotional well-being. Yeah, I don't think there's any surprises here, guys. If you're making more money, that's going to buy you certain conveniences. It's going to buy you a certain lifestyle, all the creature comforts that you want out of life, but it's not necessarily going to guarantee that you're going to have happiness. It's not going to guarantee that you're going to have a fulfilling, healthy lifestyle. You can be rich and still have poor health if you don't work out and manage your diet. And that's obviously going to impact your health as well. It continued to go on, but a larger study published in 2021 found that well-being continues to increase with income, even beyond that 75K limit. All right, so it looks like there was a recent study that did find that there were some additional insights here. The research from the University of Penn used surveys of 33,000 employed U.S. adults and found no evidence for an experienced well-being plateau above 75K per year. Yeah, I think 75K is kind of that minimum standard. But of course, as you make more money, 150 and so on, you're going to afford a lot more creature comforts. You're going to be able to send your kids to a better school. And so I think those things do contribute to a higher satisfaction score. But that would just be sort of my assumption. And then, of course, it wraps up by saying, overall, both studies seem to conclude that income can affect one's happiness, at least to a point. Let's continue to go on. What other factors affect happiness? So I'm going to just kind of give you guys my thoughts before even just reading this. I would say that, the place you live, your job satisfaction, do you actually enjoy what you do? Or do you dread going to work every day? That's going to obviously play a factor into it. Your overall health, your relationship with your spouses and your family. I think the weather also plays a huge part in your overall happiness, because if you're living in a state where there's hurricanes and tornadoes and all this kind of stuff, obviously that's going to impact your happiness. So they talk about other factors like gender, income, marriage status, education level, job satisfaction, health, education, and increased knowledge have all been cited as having a role in human happiness. And it said that another study of young people between the ages of 15 and 29 in Iran found a significant relationship between the happiness score and location in urban and rural employment status and physical activity. Yeah, this last one, I'm going to give you guys my own experience. I'm someone who loves to work out. I love to get a good sweat in, hit the gym, go biking, and do everything else. And when I'm not moving, when I'm not working out, I feel miserable. I tell my friends all the time that one of my favorite parts of my day after a long day at the office is to hit the gym and to move around, because, I have a desk job and I'm sitting down most of the time. And it can get pretty miserable when you're in that seat for 8 hours a day. Of course, I have a standing desk and I can, move around and get coffee and walk around the campus. But to be able to move around and get physical activity, gives me a lot of endorphins, and I'm getting a lot more out of it. So physical activity, I think, is no surprise there. However, this study didn't find a significant link between gender, marital status, nor education level with happiness. Yeah, I think these three factors are definitely going to depend on the country or the cities that you live in. Every country in the world, depending on where you live, whether it's Asia, North America, South America, they have different cultural norms. They have different religious aspects of society. And so I think those things will also play a factor here. So I think depending on who you're serving, you're going to get some dramatically different results. And it also goes into the fact that, health is a major factor. And we kind of talked about that. It also says that a Harvard study found a strong link between happiness and close relationships with family and friends. Another 2106, I think this is a typo here, found that volunteering provides a sense of purpose and can improve one's mood, particularly in adults older than age 70. Another 2017 study also suggested that spending money on time-saving purchases, such as a house cleaner to do unenjoyable daily tasks, allows for greater life satisfaction rather than spending money on material goods. I'm guilty of this. Me and my housemates, we do have someone who comes in every month, every 2 months, because they just do a better job. And honestly, we just have limited time, and we also don't really enjoy house cleaning. So that's something that we are willing to pay for to free up more time. This other point about volunteering, I think, also makes a huge influence on people. I don't know if it's necessarily just the elderly, that benefits from volunteering and having a sense of purpose. I remember even when I was working full time, I made it a habit to give back to the junior employees and join mentorship communities where I can give back and use my experience as a platform to help those also coming up. I think that's super important. And when you just live for yourself and you're just trying to better your lifestyle and not give back to the world, then I think it's a very, very limited view on society. And that definitely has a factor on your overall happiness and sense of purpose. So I would say all of these factors, I think the article does a good job of mentioning a lot of different factors aside from just money that goes into happiness. So, honestly, guys, my key takeaway here is to try to maximize each one of these. If you live in an area that doesn't have good weather, move out to a place where you can get the sunshine and the vitamin D and all the other benefits that comes with that. If you're in a toxic relationship, or if you have, family members that cause drama or friends that cause drama, get yourself out of that situation, put some distance in between that, and put yourself in a better situation so that you can be your best self, get the best jobs, and live your best life. So I think I'm going to wrap this up with my final thoughts. If you can find a job or a career where you can find that intersection between your purpose, things that you enjoy doing with the things that you're good at, and you can find that sweet spot, I think that's the best scenario to be in, because not only will you make money, but you'll love what you do. And I think that's what the majority of us want. But it looks like, according to the stats of this article, most people don't have that. And if you're lucky enough to be in that position now, be thankful, be appreciative of what you have. And, don't just keep it for yourself, give back to the community and try to help others find that sweet spot as well. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts on this article. Drop a comment down below, like this video, and let me know if you agree with this article or if you have a different perspective. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.